The new Stable Diffusion 3.5 large and medium models have recently been released, and I've spent the past couple of days experimenting with them to see what they're capable of. Today I want to answer the key question: what's the point? As in, why use these two models when we already have Flux? Is the image quality any better? Do they adhere to the prompts more effectively? Where do these two models stand in a world dominated by Flux, and is there any real advantage to using them? Today I want to showcase what these two models are capable of, how they compare to each other, and how they compare to Flux Dev. Stick around until the end because I'll also show you how to use these models and what are the best settings to get the most out of them. First of all, let's compare the quality of the image generation. I generated a couple of images using the same prompt and the 3 different models. Now I'm gonna show you a side-by-side comparison between Flux Dev, Stable Diffusion 3.5 large and medium. And right off the bat you can see that all of these models can generate really high quality images. Now, in my opinion, Flux still beats the Stable Diffusion large model, but not by far, because both of these models can generate really good looking images. But when it comes to Flux, I think that the details are a bit higher and it's also a bit better at handling text, as you can see in these images. And when it comes to the medium model, it's a bit worse at handling text. As you can see, the text over here is pretty messed up. But overall, the quality is really good among all of these models. So now I'm gonna show you how to download and use these models. So first thing you need to do is go to the first link in the description. It will bring you to the Stability AI website. If you scroll down over here, you can see these 3 download links for the Stable Diffusion 3.5 large turbo and medium. We're gonna focus only on large and medium today. So just click on this link over here and on files and versions. So the first time you are going to click on this link, you're gonna have to first of all log in to your Hugging Face account. If you don't have an account, make sure to sign up. After that, it might ask you to fill out a form with your name, email, and a couple of other details. You're gonna have to fill that out. You don't have to put in your real information. You can just make up an email and it will be alright. And after that, over here you can see this SD 3.5 large safe tensor file. Click on download and then go into your Comfy UI folder, models and checkpoints, and just save the file over there. And you're gonna want to do that for the other models as well. After that, you're gonna have to download the clip encoders. If you go to the other link in the description, it will bring you to this page, and over here you can see clip_G, clip_L, and the FP16 and FP8 models. Now you're gonna want to download these. Just click over here, again go to your Comfy UI folder, models, and save them in the clip folder. After you're done with that, you're gonna want to go to the 3rd link in the description. It will bring you to Civet AI, and over here you can see the Stable Diffusion 3.5 large model. You can download the model from Civet AI as well, but we are here for the workflow, so just click download over here. Save the file wherever you can. I have already saved it, but I'm gonna download it again. Open it in WinRAR and extract it wherever you want. And after that, you can go into Comfy UI. So we are here in Comfy UI. All you have to do is click load and double click on the workflow that we have just downloaded. Now, first thing you want to do when you are importing this workflow is go into Manager and click Update All. You will need to update the Comfy UI to the latest version in order to run the Stable Diffusion 3.5 medium model. After that, you are ready to go. So here's the workflow. I'm gonna bring these nodes a bit closer together because for some reason they are very spread apart and that's a bit annoying. Okay, we're done. So over here, just go ahead and select the Stable Diffusion model that you want to use. As you can see, I have the 3.5, the 3.5 large turbo and medium. We're gonna go with large for this one. Over here in the triple clip loader, the first thing you need to do is select the clip_G, second clip_L, and over here you can select either FP16 or FP8 depending on which ones you have. If you have less than 16 gigs of VRAM, I recommend using the FP8 version, but if you have 16 gigabytes or more, then you can use the FP16 version. I'm gonna go with FP16 because I have more than 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Over here we have the image size. I'm gonna set this to 1024 by 1024. And you can leave these other settings the same, like model sampling. You can leave this to 3. Over here you have the positive prompt. Let's just type whatever. Over here we have the negative prompt. Let's just type the standard. You can leave these as default, and what you need to focus on is the K sampler. Over here we have the seed. You can leave this to whatever. It is by default set to randomize. You can set it to fixed if you don't want the image to change a lot, but I'm gonna leave it on randomize. Over here we have the amount of steps. I recommend using about 25 steps because this gives you a good balance between quality and generation speed. And when it comes to CFG, I recommend putting this on 4. Later on in the video, I'm gonna make a comparison between different amount of steps and CFG to see which values work the best. And by default is set to DPMPP_2M. This sampler is pretty good, but you can also set it on Euler. When it comes to scheduler, you should leave it on SGM_uniform, and denoise leave it on 1. And after that, everything is done. You can click Q prompt. Now, the first time you're gonna generate an image with this model is going to take a couple of minutes to load the model into the RAM, which is going to be quite an intensive task. So don't worry if your PC is going to slow down in the process because it's normal. Let me show you. So over here we have Task Manager. If we look at the RAM, you can see that the amount of RAM is starting to fill up. And as you can see, it gets close to 100% RAM utilization, which is quite insane, but don't worry, it's not gonna stay like this. At some point, the RAM usage is going to drop a little bit. So yeah, over here you can see it dropped to 64% utilization. And if we take a look at the GPU, over here you can see that I have 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and 11.3 out of those 16 gigabytes have been filled up. Now that took a while, but as you can see, the image has started to generate, and it is generating at about 2.4 iterations per second, which is pretty decent. And as you can see, the model is taking up almost all of the available VRAM. And here is the result. It's a pretty decent image of a dog walking on a beach. Now let's take a look at Stable Diffusion 3.5 medium. Now you can leave everything else the same because these models are very similar, so you don't need to change any other settings. You can leave the clips exactly the same, and we're just gonna click Q prompt and see what happens. Now, as you can see, this is a smaller model, which means that it is taking up less RAM and also less VRAM, and the image is also generating a lot faster. You can see that the image has already generated, and again, it's a pretty decent image of a dog walking on a beach, even though this one looks a bit weird. The dog is missing not one but 2 limbs, which is a bit sad, but whatever. So yeah, this is how you get the models to work in ComfUI. You can find all the necessary links in the description. And now let's take a closer look at the best settings for the case sampler over here. Now let's take a look at the best amount of steps that you can use for the Stable Diffusion large model. So as you can see, we have a couple of images with the same seed with different amount of steps ranging from 20 all the way to 50 steps. And in my opinion, the best value for the Stable Diffusion large model is somewhere between 30 and 35 steps. Anything over that is overkill, and below that you might get fewer details. As you can see over here in this image, there are a couple of elements missing, such as the bar connecting this mirror to the moped. So yeah, the best balance is about 30 to 35 steps. Now, when it comes to CFG, in my opinion, you're gonna see the best results if you use a value of about 4, maybe 4.5, and maybe as low as 3.5. because anything lower than that and your image starts to look faded and unclear and lacking details. And if you go above 4.5, you're gonna start to notice that your images are going to look a bit overexposed, or they're gonna have a pretty intense contrast, which may or may not look very good. Now, when it comes to the medium model, I noticed that it works better with higher amounts of steps, so I would recommend using something like 35 to 40, maybe 45 steps for the image. And don't worry, because this model is really fast, so the generation time won't be very long. And when it comes to CFG, I think the best value is somewhere around 5, maybe 4.5 or 5.5. No need to go over that to something like 6, because again, your image is going to start to look a bit oversaturated and not very good. Now let's take a look at how fast these models are. Keep in mind that the generation speed will vary widely depending on the graphics card that you have. For reference, I have an RTX 4060 Ti with 16GB of VRAM, so the generation speed will be different for you depending again on the graphics card model that you have. Now we're gonna start with the Stable Diffusion 3.5 large. I set the resolution to 1024 by 1024 and the amount of steps to 20, and let's just click generate and see how quickly the image generates. If you take a look over here, we have about 2.3 iterations per second, which is pretty decent, and it took about 47.88 seconds to generate the image. Now I'm gonna load the medium model. So with the same settings, Stable Diffusion 3.5 medium took about 16.49 seconds to generate the image, which is less than half than what it took the large model to generate, which is quite impressive. And for reference, I'm gonna load a Flux workflow over here, and I'm gonna use the Flux Dev FP8 version with the same amount of steps and the same resolution. And let's just click generate. And Flux was the slowest model with 56.54 seconds. Now honestly, after updating the Comfy UI, it seems like Flux is generating images faster, which is quite awesome. Now when it comes to speed, the Stable Diffusion models are faster, but keep in mind that you are sacrificing quality for speed. Now the area where the Stable Diffusion models shine is when it comes to stylized images. As you can see, the Flux image, it still looks great, but it's a bit more bland, a bit more boring compared to the other images. Stable Diffusion Large did a great job at making a digital painting of this girl over here. As you can see, the image is very detailed and it has an impressionist style to it. And that's the main advantage of using the Stable Diffusion models. You can get more creative results as compared to Flux, which tends to be a bit more on the boring side. So to answer the question, what's the point of using this model if Flux is better anyway? Well, Flux is a distilled model, which means that it is harder to fine-tune and improve compared to Stable Diffusion 3.5, which doesn't have this issue, meaning that we will probably see improved versions of this model very soon. The Stable Diffusion models might not look very impressive right now, but if you take a look at the SDXL base model, it wasn't very great at launch either. But over time it got adopted by the community, and now we have thousands of great checkpoints and LoRa's which you can use to generate awesome images. And I believe this is exactly what is going to happen to Stable Diffusion 3.5. The community is going to further develop the model into something truly game-changing, and that's why you should take these models into consideration. And that was it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any suggestions or questions, leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.